They nixed it.
Really?
Yeah, they hired a dean of students instead.
No problem.
Here?
But it's like all of this kind of stuff. I think it's
Welcome back to the Salon game. If you are just joining us, you are tuning in for a classic 1970s game show that features a celebrity panel that includes fictional characters and people who were dead for a very long time by the 1970s.
The rules of the game are simple. Each round will pose a question for our panelists. They will use their whiteboards to write an answer, which they will share with the audience.
And, of course, we always want to make sure that the audience gets in on the action, and so each round, one of you is going to come on down and sit in this hot seat where you will respond to our question.
You will also award a point to the panelists who you believe conveyed their argument most persuasively. At the end of our game, we're going to add up all of the points and announce our winner.
So, without further ado, let's get back to the Salon game. But first, let's meet two of our contestants. Each one has written a statement to introduce themselves. You'll get to hear about them throughout today's game.
Starting off with the big JC.
I'm sure you all know me as just a man who sadly got assassinated by many people.
some including my lifelong friends who feared my power. However, I am a man much greater than that. My name is Julius Caesar, most famously known as Dictator of Rome. I also commanded battles, of which the great majority were very successful, and evoked change in Rome's politics. From the day I was born, I was destined to have power. Both of my parents were politicians, and I, too, made my way up the political hierarchy. Eventually, I became a consul, most powerful person in ancient Roman political hierarchy. I then formed a political alliance with two of my friends, Marcus Crassus and Gnaeus Pompey. But enough about my political life. I also commanded an army. During my consulship, with my intellect and military skills, I conquered part of Gaul. But apparently, this didn't tickle Pompey's fancy, which led him to wage war on me, which I won, of course. I also defeated many other foes, such as Cato the Younger and King Pharnaces II of Pontus. I expanded the territory of Rome rule significantly by winning the Gallic War. Of course, I also cared for my Roman people and worked to make a better life for them. I implemented reforms such as lessening poverty and canceling people's debts, redistributing land to veterans, and increasing pay for soldiers. However, despite all the work I put into making Rome a better empire, I was assassinated in 44 BC by many of my acquaintances, friends, and foes. One of them was Brutus, my best friend who turned on me. Now, you might be wondering, why did you get assassinated if you were so great? I wonder that too, but I hear it's because they feared how much power I was accumulating. I was viewed as a tyrant, and for that I had to die before I could be crowned king. However, even though there were people who opposed me, I had many loyal followers who defended me after I got assassinated. At my funeral, my good friend Mark Antony spoke about my legacy and said only good things about me. Many who were angry at my death went to set fire to the houses of my assassinators, and some even set out to kill them as well. I was a very influential person who should not be simplified just to my assassination. I was a great leader of Rome, and my leadership in Rome has continued to make an influence long after my death.
I am the legendary hero Achilles, son of Peleus. I live in Pythia, where I was friends for 400 to 350 BC. I was always one of the elites, one of those members who gets names passed down through centuries in epic poems and stories. That is to say, I fought wars at 16. What did I ask? Did you ever do at 16? Nothing that great. Before I got drafted at war, I trained with Chiron, a mighty centaur who taught me how to wrestle and sword fight. He taught me medicine and healing, just as others before me. I was known as a warrior, a hero, but not a typical hero like Heracles or like Perseus. I surpassed them in skill and obsession, and as a consequence, I was terribly cruel. But those, I believe, are the makings of a hero, of a champion. Life is those who are willing to take it. Power is for those who are willing to stop to nothing until they get it. I was blessed, born with the advantage of being born a demigod, I, the son of Hades, the sea nymphs, the goddess of water. But that does not mean that I got where I am by having everything handed to me on a silver platter. I fought tooth and nail until scars littered my skin and my blood tainted the battlefield. My place in the Greek army was not given to me. I earned it. I earned the title of the best of the Greeks. I was bloodthirsty and rageful, as Homer once depicted me. Sing, O muse, he said, of the rage of Achilles, the son of Peleus. And sing, the muses did. The muses did not stop singing, not the death of my beloved comrade Patroclus, or when I avenged him, killing Hector, Prince of Troy. All we know, sooner or later, all ventures lose at the end, and I lost everything. I lost my life. No one ever said it was marathon. My hands are forever stained with the blood in the promise of glory. I died at the hands of Paris, the brother of Hector. A monument was later done to commemorate me, and my ashes were mixed with Patroclus. We both met at Lyceum later on, and we lived after our death with our stomachs full, forgetting the feeling of starvation of a hungry man with power in his sights.
To get us started with the first question, we're going to need an audience member. Any volunteers? Ray, come on down!
Ray, welcome. Tell us who you are. Where are you from?
I'm Ray. I'm from Maryland.
Welcome, Ray from Maryland. You may have a seat in the hot seat. Thanks for playing the game.
Alrighty, this brings us to our very first question. Is it better for a parent to raise their child with a sense of nature or nurture? Alrighty, looks like everyone's ready. Ray, what do you have?
The nurture. Why? Because we're a social species and we need to rely on each other.
Good answer, good answer. Alrighty, starting us off with Julius Caesar. What do you got, dude?
I think nurture because you only learn things and know how to work in society if you actually go out there and experience it for yourself. Like, I was a politician, and my parents raised me as a politician, and I was surrounded by politics. That's why I succeeded as a great dictator of Rome.
I chose nature because I was already born brilliant, so I just continue being brilliant, so that's my logic. But to each their own, even though I'm correct.
Thank you for your incorrect opinions. I put nurture because if I would have raised my son by nurture, maybe he wouldn't have abdicated me.
I chose nurture because I was an orphan and the places that I grew up in were really not that great. So I would rather be loved by my parents and Marilla and Matthew. So I choose nurture. And also I agree with Ray that we are a social species and that is just very important for us to be social.
Well, like my fellow Greek, I put nature. As we all know, the fates pre-write your story with their string. So there's nothing you can really do to change it.
Well, I do agree. The fates don't write it. God does. God will write your future, and He makes you as you are. Thank you. While I do agree that God makes you who you are, I chose nurture because when I was growing up, I grew up in Andover, Massachusetts, surrounded with battles with Native Americans and the Massachusetts Bay Colony people. But when I arrived to Salem and I found out God's people, I decided to work more towards helping the people to get closer to God. And I think the nurture that I've experienced in Salem has really helped with that. Thank you.
Ray, you've gotten to hear a lot of wonderful answers. Got to learn a little more about Massachusetts Bay Colony than maybe you expected to. Who would you like to award the point to?
Mary, Queen of Scots?
Most certainly is. Mary, Queen of Scots. You get the point on the board. Thank you, Ray, for playing the game.
Alrighty, so for our next personal statements, we have Mary, Queen of Scots. Oh, yeah.
Why, thank you. Hello all. I am Mary, Queen of Scots, and I was born to Mary of Guise and King James V. And when I was born, I was crowned queen at only 6 days old because of my father's untimely passing. But my counsel when I was first born was so disrespectful to me and tried to kidnap me and send me off to England, but thankfully they failed. So I went to France, and that's where I spent my entire childhood and where I met the first love of my life, Francis. Francis and I had such a fulfilling marriage, even though he worried me to no end with the strain he put on such a frail body. He would always go horse riding and hunting, even though I told him not to, which unfortunately led to his untimely death. May he rest in peace. But after that, his mother, Catherine de Medici, rudely kicked me out of France just after I was mourning the loss of my dear departed husband. The blasphemy. But anyways, after I was sent back to Scotland, I started to look for a new husband to help my country prosper. And during this time, I helped Scotland gain many new international relationships. But originally it was before my search for a new marriage, but I can't help them being entranced by my beauty. Not now. After much searching and looking, I decided to marry Lord Darnley. Now, this was a terrible decision because he was a terrible husband. Not only did he cheat on me all the time, he was constantly drunk. To this day, I'm disappointed in the fact that this was the man who I had my only child with. But unfortunately, he was murdered in cold blood, and I was utterly devastated about this. Of course, I had absolutely no idea that this was going to happen, and I certainly never conspired with the James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell, to kill him. That would have been preposterous. It was just the Lord getting retribution for the murder of my best friend, David Rizzio. May he rest in peace. After this utterly devastating event, I got married to Bothwell. And Bothwell is the second love of my life. And even though he will never be Francis, he really is the man I wanted to put my hopes and dreams into. I saw the future in his eyes. I married him despite the fact that he was a Protestant. Oh, Lord, forgive me. But my counsel did not seem to agree with me. They were too set on Bothwell's alleged involvement in the murder of my second husband. I told them many times that it wasn't his fault, but they never listened to me. So they amassed an army to fight me and my husband, and I was forced to separate from him. He then escaped to England, and there he went mad. My poor Bothwell. I even had to turn to my sister, Queen Elizabeth, for help, but she never helped. Instead, I was abdicated by my own son and then imprisoned in England for 19 years. My evil sister Queen then decided she did not like me being imprisoned there, but instead of helping me get my throne back like I had originally asked her to, she executed me in cold blood. I never drafted a letter to the Roman Catholic Church to help me murder Elizabeth. I would never do that. I saw her as a fellow woman trying to survive in a male-dominated world, not an illegitimate child without any claim to the throne. That would be an insult to her work as a queen, of course. And after I was beheaded, my people celebrated my reign, and I was remembered as a good and benevolent ruler.
Hi, my name is Anne Shirley Cuthbert. Please spell Anne with an E when you write it. I'm an orphan, and I was adopted by two lovely siblings named Matthew and Marilla. Although they originally didn't want me because I wasn't a boy, I charmed them with my obnoxious amount of natter and subsequently made Matthew love me. When I was in the orphanage, I was frequently bullied for using big words, and in all honesty, being smarter than the other kids in there. I put on a facade when I got to attend school for the first time, but I quickly realized that there was really no point. I frequently find myself an awake snake, and half of it comes from just being me, being Anne. I used to think the name Anne was terrible and dreadful, and I wished to be named Princess Cordelia or something much, much more interesting. But I realized that as I got older, and with Marilla consistently reassuring me that my forename was a purely sensible name, I realized that Anne is nothing too flashy and nothing too plain, like how Anne without an E looks when you write it. I also learned that if I pretended to be someone I was not, I wouldn't be interesting. I would just be Anne and not Anne. People would think of me as a pitiful girl with hair of rouge and nothing special to her but her hair. And maybe that's what they used to think of me, but now I've learned to accept my red hair, and I'm fully content within myself. When Matthew picked me up from the train station, I quickly realized that he was a kindred spirit, as was Diana, my best bosom friend, who was stuck at finishing school to be a housewife and not with me at Queen's University. And that reminds me, I know some of you guys have very different opinions about women than I do, and that's okay because you guys are from like 7 BC. But in my world, it is the 1890s, and men are finally starting to respect women more, for the most part. I'm only 18 right now, and women are finally getting their way into teaching jobs, and jobs are typically dominated by men. It makes me so wonder of all the glorious opportunities that will arrive in my life. I want to be a teacher, like my wonderful teacher, Miss Stacy. But I wonder if it'll be possible for me to ever become something like a doctor, like Gilbert, or a pilot, something outstandingly amazing in
Yeah,
life.
thank you so much for this response. That is wonderful. Thank you, Anne. Thank you. As we move into the second round, that means we need a second volunteer from the audience. Nolly, come on down. Nolly, welcome to the Salon Game. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from.
I'm Molly, and I'm from Dominica.
Wonderful. Nolly, welcome to the game. Welcome. We're glad to have you. All right, the second question. How do men and women experience life differently from each other? All right, Julius Caesar, you good over there? Oh, I just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off. All right, here we go. Nolly, looks like you have a long response. All right, tell us about the book that you just wrote.
Aha. My response is basically that growing up, men and women are, I should say boys and girls, are exposed to different expectations and opportunities that lead to the creation of gender roles and stereotypes that affect the way they perceive their lives to be. So basically their general outlook on life and the paths they choose to take.
Thank you, Nolly. Thank you, Nolly.
I think that we men and women have it different because men, we work, we provide, and we go to wars. Me personally, I conducted a war and won many of them, by the way. And women, they don't really do anything. So us men, we are the providers of this country. We are the supporters of this country and are better than women.
Pretty confident statement for a man who died with a knife in the back. All right. Next up, Billy.
I feel similar than Julius Caesar because I never had once any female warrior with me on the battlefield. I did once disguise myself as a woman to avoid the war, but we don't talk about that. We talk about that I won and I was a man, so women are just there apparently. I don't know.
Not problematic at all. Okay, Mary Gwen Scott.
So, because of society in history. Men have it easier. See, I was disrespected. They tried to ship me off to England and didn't let me even try to, I don't know, figure queenship off by myself because, oh, that would have been too hard for her little lady brain. Are you kidding me? I ran my country just fine, thank you. The fact that I got beheaded has nothing to do with men and women.
I agree with you, 100%. And in complete contrary to Julius Caesar, I believe that women are honestly kind of better than men. Because women should just have as much freedom and equal job opportunities as men. And it's stupid. Like, I remember talking to Marilla and I was asking, why can't women be ministers? It's stupid. Because we've been put in these gender roles and stereotypes that women should be, like, less instead of men, and men are, like, right here. And that's stupid. And especially in the 1890s, I believe that we will be progressing towards a new modern age.
Well, to my Greek society, women produce heirs and men go to war. However, don't tell anyone I said this. Men are easier to fool, because I fooled 108 of them into not marrying me for 20 years.
Unfortunately, I do understand that as my second wife, she did fool me into getting money for her through something that I have learned to love for many years, gambling. Man, did I love gambling. Anyways, women and men are both equal in the eyes of God, though women, as you've seen through a few examples, Mary, can lead to more temptation and hysteria. They are both equal in the eyes of God.
I agree.
Queen Mary, you will burn in hell, I do not.
Alrighty, what does Abigail Williams have to say?
I agree with Dostoevsky over here. I believe that men and women are both equal under the eyes of God, but unfortunately women can be a little more subject to temptation by the devil, and that is why there are so many witches in Salem hurting me and harming the other girls.
Witch! Alrighty, so Nolly, who are you going to award the point to?
Definitely Mary, Queen of Scots.
Alright, give it up for Mary.
Nolly, thank you for playing the game, and hopefully our contestants are still all alive by the time we're done. Haven't killed each other. Okay, all right. We now need to learn about two more of our contestants, and we're going to start this round with Penelope. So, Penelope.
Well, where should I begin? Well, I suppose a formal introduction is in order. My name is Penelope, though I believe most of you know me as Odysseus's wife. But that happened when I was 15. Before that, I was born to King Icarus of Sparta and Agrippinus, though half-naiads were very common then. As the daughter of the king, I was obviously raised in Sparta with my cousin, Helen. Anyways, as I said before, I got married at 15. I know, very shocking to you, but very common then. In Sparta, we didn't force men to fight to the death for a woman's hand, unlike some other places. Instead, we had a simple race, and the winner received the woman's hand in marriage. Obviously, for me, the winner was Odysseus, though I learned later that he had cheated by drugging the other competitors' drinks before the race. Still, he won, and we married the same day. I must say I did some crying. Okay, a lot of crying. And not because I was overjoyed to be marrying Odysseus. In fact, at the time, I hardly knew him at all. No, the reason I cried so much and missed witnessing the race was because Helen decided to tease me and mock the fact that Odysseus had originally competed for her hand in marriage. But I've been talking too much about my childhood, so let's get to the part you might know. I remained loyal to my husband, even for 20 years he spent at war, and trying to find his way back to Ithaca, where his son and I were waiting for him. There's this thing I've been informed you all have in your modern times. It's called Google Maps. We did not have this, and so Odysseus was gone for, like I said, 20 years. Though I'm sure he would have loved whatever this Google Maps thing was. For most of that time, I spent weeping in my room, and I only became noticed near the end of Odysseus' story, for my weaving my loom during the day and undoing my work secretly at night. This must sound counterproductive, and had I truly been making it, it really would have been. However, I had 108 suitors desperately coming to my palace, begging for my hand in marriage, and I told them that when I was done with my loom, I would choose a new husband. And that worked very well for a while, until the suitors found out. Then I had to come up with a new challenge. Whoever could string my husband's bow would get to marry me. But this wasn't a regular bow. This was Odysseus's bow, one that only he could string. Fortunately, my husband did return very soon after I set up this challenge, though he did lock me in our room and hang our 12 youngest maids that I raised on my own for disrespecting him. But before long, he left on another adventure, and I was once again left alone in the palace of Ithaca. And shortly after, I died and moved into the fields of asphalt in the underworld, where my legacy would be known as the perfect wife.
Hello. As you all should know, my name is Fyodor Dostoevsky. I wrote famous novels such as Crime and Punishment, Notes from Underground, and The Idiot. To my own credit, these books have shaped Russian society and made valid criticisms of the Russian government. At least it was back then, and now. Speaking of back then, I was born on November 11th, 1821, and tragically passed away from pulmonary hemorrhages 3 times in a row. Boo-hoo for you, sitting alone, passing away peacefully. Anyways, as I was saying, I was, and still am, a devout Orthodox Christian, and through my faith, and though faith in Russia was very poor at the time, many had rejected faith for atheism or nihilism, or even worse, Catholicism. My novels influenced people of my time and restored the Orthodox Christian faith to Russia, though not as much as I had hoped. However, many famous people you may know, such as Albert Einstein, Franz Kafka, and, I'm not so proud of this one, Sigmund Freud, have spoken highly of me, as I had a great influence on the world of psychological literature. I had 2 wives, and my first one tragically passed away. It caused a burst of inspiration for me with my new books. I wrote short stories such as White Nights, and they sold adequately. One thing you may not know is that in 1848, I was supposed to be executed by a firing squad for the Tsar's orders. Why? Don't worry, I'll tell you. I was part of a Russian liberation group against the Tsars of Russia, but they found us and tried to execute us through firing squad. However, they did something even worse. They pretended to execute us and sent us to Siberia in a work labor camp for 15 years. It was cruel, but only one thing came of it that was truly of help. I found God. I truly understood the words of the Bible and reconnected with my faith. But even though it was not a fair punishment for my crime. Speaking of punishment and crime, let's talk about crime and punishment. It is seen as my best, or at least my most popular book, inspired by the deaths of my friends, my mock execution, and my grueling time in Siberia. But life as a writer was not glamorous. With my second wife, my books weren't doing so well, so I started to gamble just a bit. Trust me, I really love to gamble. If I didn't love my wife so much, man, I would have left her for gambling. I really loved it. Unfortunately, it was an unrequited love, as I ended up in severe gambling debt. So, to repay this, I, with my beautiful mind, wrote a book called The Gambler, which paid off all my gambling debt. Though we all know my books were sincere, amazing, thoughtful, and changed the world of literature, since I was in the public eye, I had many people who harshly criticized me, even though they were wrong. One of these people, if you could even call him that, was Vladimir Nabokov. He would constantly criticize my writings or speeches. Speaking of speeches, right before I died, on February 3rd, 1880, I was elected vice president of the Slavic Benevolent Society, a very influential Russian political group. And I made a wonderful speech that was very well received by thousands of people. Even my enemies would write paragraphs later in life of how well I did. So it's clear throughout my life I faced many struggles. Death of my lovely first wife, 15 years time in prison, not to mention almost getting executed by a firing squad. But what brought me through all these, what gave me strength, and brought my books to popularity, and gave me the success they are today, was my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Bless all of you.
Alrighty, thank you guys. For our next question, we need another volunteer. Talk about a tough crowd. Is that Abigail Willoughby?
Yes, it is Abigail.
Yeah, get down here, Abigail. Wait a minute.
Not to be confused.
Bum, 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 What's your name? Where are you from?
I'm Abigail Lancaster.
Oh.
You're from here and you call it Lancaster? Lancaster.
Lancaster. Okay, well, Abigail from Lancaster. Here's our next question. Is lying ever a good thing? Alrighty, starting with our own Abigail Willoughby. Is lying ever a good thing?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
Because sometimes you have to lie. In a tough situation, you get harmed. You have to lie.
Oh, I guess that's a beheading situation. Let's bring it over to
Abigail's teachers, watch out.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar, let's start down here with you.
I think lying can be okay sometimes. Like, not that I ever did this, but like skewing some words when you speak to the public to get their favor. Not that I ever did this, but I think if in some situations it can be okay to lie.
Once again, I agree with Julius Caesar because lying is a useful tool when you're battling people. Sometimes people need to fear you. Not a lot of people fear a 16-year-old. So yes, lying is a great thing, especially when it's, I don't know, so that the people meant to kill you doesn't seem that bad at all.
Learn from my mistakes, I guess.
Unfortunately, I agree with these two wonderful people. I think it's okay to lie, only sometimes, because, just between you and me, Bothwell did kill my second husband, so if I didn't lie to my counsel and say, no, he didn't, I wouldn't have been married in the first place. He would have been assassinated already. So, it's okay, just a little bit, just a tad, just.
I agree with Mary Queen of Scots. I believe it is okay to sometimes lie. Although lying does go against my Protestant beliefs, sometimes I do believe it's okay to lie. When I first came to Green Gables, Miss Rachel Lind, she's a person, she insulted me on my looks and my hair and everything, and it was very rude, and I just walked out, ran out of there, and called her a very mean, unforgiving woman. And in order to stay at Green Gables, Marilla made me apologize to Miss Lind. And because of this, I had to lie and tell her that I was sorry for what I said, but I really wasn't.
Well, I also said yes. If you didn't know, my husband Odysseus is related to Hermes, the god of traveling and thieves. So, of course, he lied many times. And I did have to lie to 108 men on, the whole loom situation. It was a moment. So yes, lying is good. And when my husband came back and told me he loved me, and I said it back, I may or may not have been lying. Don't tell him.
Well, I said lying is sometimes okay. Only against the Tsars of Russia. But either way, God will know. But if it's against the Tsars, maybe you'll still get to heaven.
I disagree with all people here. I think it is not okay to lie. Not only is it ungodly to lie to other people, it's also ungodly to lie to yourself. I've seen way too many hypocrites in these jails, in these prisons, caught for dealing with the devil and harming us children and still praising the Lord as hypocrites. That's not okay. You're going to burn in hell. Don't lie.
Alrighty, so Abigail Willoughby, who do you agree with?
I think Abigail Williams.
Nice. All right, Abigail Willoughby, giving the point to Abigail Williams. Alrighty.
Thank you, Abigail.
Lancaster. Speaking of Abigail, time for Abigail Williams' personal statement.
Greetings. My name is Abigail Williams, not Willoughby. As a small-town girl, I may seem feeble and weak, but that's completely untrue. I survived years of battle living in Andover, Massachusetts, where Indians smashed my dear parents' head in a pillow next to mine. Now, as an orphan, I live in the small town of Salem, but don't underestimate me. I've seen some reddish work done at night, and I can make you wish that you'd never seen the sun go down. Before I lived with my uncle, Reverend Samuel Parris, I worked as a maid for the Proctor family, where all my ignorance was borne away by my dear John. Sadly, Elizabeth Proctor banished me from my home, and I was sent to live with my uncle and his family instead, away from my dear John. Salem is a highly Puritan society, and my uncle's job as a minister is extremely important. But sometimes it can be boring for us girls, and Tituba Indian, the family slave, is always entertaining. My cousin Betty and I are great friends, and we often meet with all the town girls to hear about Tituba's bizarre Barbados adventures. But don't worry, it's never anything unnatural. But this year brings dangers to our community, starting with my own little Betty. Tituba and other witches harm us. They strike us down with the devil. I've got these holes all over from their damned needles and pins. Why, just look at my leg. Elizabeth Proctor and Goody Nurse and all the other hypocrites come to hurt me, cast their spirit upon me, torture me in my sleep. We must stop these witches and their damned ways, and I swear by God, I will scrub the world clean for the love of him.
Thank you, Abigail. That was alarming. All right, we have time for one more round and one more question and one more audience member. I think that we have a special request for our final hot seat participant.
I guess it's my turn. Yeah.
Who we calling down?
So we have some special guests in the audience tonight. Do you guys want to rock, paper, scissors? I have two Millersville University professors here. Dr. Davis and Dr. Brooks, give it up for them. Dr. Brooks is stepping up for the stage. So what's your name? Where are you from?
I'm Sarah Brooks from Lancaster.
Correct pronunciation. Thank you. Anything interesting going on right now?
I'm just very struck by the quality of these performances.
Hopefully in a good way. Alrighty, Damien, Mr. H, what's the next question?
All right, our final question. It's not like it's a big question or anything. Here we go. If you had the power to solve one problem, what would it be? All right.
Alrighty, Dr. Brooks. What would you say? What would you solve?
I'm gonna have to go for climate change. It feels central to all other problems.
Good answer, good answer. Very real.
We have a bunch of people from 7 BC saying, what's the climate change? Okay.
What's
All
the
right.
climate?
Julius Caesar. Let's hear your.
You asked if I had the power to solve one problem. Well, I do have the power. I would want to fix the rich and poor wealth gap because I grew up, you think all politicians are rich? No, I grew up poor, and I noticed that a lot of rich had like way more money than all the poor combined. And that's what I wanted to solve by getting a lot of power in Rome.
Well, I chose, there's always one person, you know. If I have one wish, what would I want? I want a lot of other wishes, so yeah, that's what I chose. If I had the power to solve one problem, I would have the power to solve all problems. Because why be a plebe and just choose one?
Given asking for more wishes, but okay.
Thank you. I would choose to solve gender inequality, because if my council and other people had respected me, they wouldn't have dogged me for my marriage choices. I know they were questionable, but I loved them.
I'm going to have to agree with Mary Queen of Scots again. I would also solve gender inequality. When I was in the orphanage, because I was a girl, I was treated terribly. And also, because my best friend, Diana, she's stuck in finishing school because of the gender stereotypes of how women are in, unfortunately, the 1890s. If gender equality existed, Diana would be in college and not at finishing school.
Well, for once, I kind of agree with you guys, but specifically women's rights in marriages. Something you may not know about Odysseus and that is, when he was gone for the 20 years before he left, he banned me from touching any other man. And I mean any other man. And I'm not sure if how it is for you guys now, but in my time, women couldn't separate from their husbands, and, well, we relied solely on them. So if I could change that, I would.
Now, while a lot of you expect me to say the lack of Orthodox faith, and I do believe that, there is one main issue. See, I grew up poor, and I think I agree with Julius Caesar that the wealth gap and the class system isn't correct. I believe that the wealthy need to be brought down, and the poor will rise up.
I would like to solve the problem of witches. I really just want to come clear at this point. Like I said about lying, I just feel like if we could just restart this year of 1692, it would be so much better, and everything that was happening in this world of like all the unholiness would be gone. So I would say the witches.
Good answer, good answer.
We don't have witches.
They are lurking among us. They hurt me in my sleep.
Alrighty, Dr. Sarah Brooks, who would you say you agree with?
I'm gonna have to go with Anne Shirley.
Alrighty, and with an E gets another point.
And that can only mean one thing. And you have won the salon. very real trophy that is worth a lot of money and not $3 from Target.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Much obliged, thank you.
That's the shortest thing she said.
Yes. All right, can we give a huge round of applause for all of our students?
They worked really hard this year. Goes beyond more of a suit jacket and a mustache.
Amazing work, amazing work. Also, big thank you to Keisha up in the tech booth, who volunteered her time to help us out today, Mr. Lawrence for live streaming, Miss Steph for helping put this together. Thank you to everybody. And for all of you who joined us today, thank you. All right, have a great day. Thank you, guys.
See ya.